Hello and a very good afternoon to all of those who are watching me live on the Facebook page of News9. I'm Neha and today we will be speaking about the incessant rains in Karnataka. As you all know, the state faces a twin challenge in the form of COVID-19 and floods. The rains have literally wreaked havoc across the states. Speaking about various districts, be it Kodagu, Belagavi, Chikmagaluru, Udupi, Uttara Kannada and Dakshina Kannada districts. Of course, these are the few districts that remain the worst affected. Orange and red alert also has been sounded across many districts in the last few days. The entire state is reeling under incessant rains. Several villages in North Karnataka region also are completely inundated. In fact, 5 people living near Bhagamandla area are missing after a massive landslide took place. The search operations are underway to find those missing people from the local as well as NDRF teams. On the other side, Hubli, Dharwad, Belagavi and coastal districts of Udupi, Mangaluru and Karwar in North Karnataka are also receiving heavy rains which has led to floods. Now, rivers in Karnataka, as you know, are flowing above the danger mark. Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa has announced an emergency relief of 50 crore rupees. He took to Twitter and wrote, I quote, "In the wake of heavy rains in several parts of the state, I have instructed the Chief Secretary to review the situation and of course issued instructions to DCs, that's the Deputy Commissioners of course, to closely monitor the situation and take necessary measures. Also ordered immediate release of 50 crore rupees for emergency relief purposes. 50 crore rupees has already been released and if necessary, more funds would be released. The ministers can take decisions regarding emergency works." So that's what B.S. Yediyurappa has said. It does appear that the state government is putting its best foot forward, doing all that they possibly can to make sure that they are able to overcome not only the flood situation in Karnataka, but as you all know, the COVID-19 situation as well. So apart from it, the Chief Minister also announced a compensation of 10,000 rupees for the families affected by floods and 5 lakh rupees for those whose houses have been damaged. So far, as many as 375 homes across the state have been damaged due to rains and floods. Minister R. Ashoka also paid a visit to Udupi district and many adjoining areas to assess the damage. The minister said 1,747 relief centers have been identified, which includes your schools, Anganwadi centers, community centers, among others. Do remember that this is the third consecutive year Karnataka is facing a flood-like situation. What we need to address at the earliest is the root cause of floods and why Karnataka seems to be struggling year after year when it comes to handling the situations. Let's quickly go across to the expert who joins us live on the Facebook page of News9, Mr. B.H. Anil Kumar, who is former Executive Director, National Institute of Disaster Management. Thank you so very much, Mr. Anil Kumar, for your patience and for being with us. Sir, my first question to you is, year after year, we see the same visuals, the same apathy, but nothing seems to be changing on ground. Let me ask you this, how can we handle the situation in a better way? And how bad is the crisis right now?
Right now, the flood situation across various parts of the state has started right now because the monsoon season, though it started a little bit late, has picked up now, and all across the state, the flood situation is on. We are all on high alert. And I'm sure all the districts are doing what is required of them to meet the flood situation. And government has also announced immediate relief to be, given to these flood-affected people, and also set up relief centers. As you already said, about 1,740 relief centers have been set up across the state. And I think all the districts are geared up to meet the flood situation.
All right. So, Mr. B.H. Anil Kumar, let me ask you this. If you could tell us, sir, about the measures taken to help those in dire need, or what are the stringent measures that should be put in place?
No, what is more important is that we need to keep a watch on the rising levels of water in the rivers and make sure that people who are situated close to the banks of the rivers and in low-lying areas are evacuated and shifted to higher ground. This is what is more important now because we cannot rule out the possibility of a sudden downpour, which would then rise the levels and then inundate the low-lying areas and leading to loss of lives. So I'm sure all the districts have been identifying these kind of low-lying areas and have already taken measures to shift people to the relief centers. So it is the reason why the flooding is happening is something which we need to discuss in detail. Hello?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
No,
All right, sir. Since you have been assessing the situation quite closely and, you also have been touring all these districts, let me ask you, what are the challenges the personnel face on ground?
No, on ground, the personnel, what they face is the monitoring of the rising levels is something which needs to be done, and which the State Disaster Management Authority is aware of, and they are monitoring it. And the Karnataka State Remote Sensing Agency also monitors the and predicts what is the kind of rainfall which is going to happen in the next 2-3 days, and they send out these alerts.
All right.
The fact that you mentioned that some of the districts are on orange alert means that these districts have already been notified that they will receive heavy rains in the coming 2 to 3 days, and therefore they need to be well prepared to ensure that people who are in these low-lying areas are evacuated out and shifted to higher ground, so that in the event of a flood happening, there is no loss of life. Most important thing is that we prevent the loss of life and loss of life of the animals, and this is what is more important.
All right. Sir, how difficult has it really been on ground to handle the floods amid the pandemic? So these are the, twin crises that the state of Karnataka faces right now. One is on one side you have COVID-19, on the other side you have floods. So how difficult has it really been?
COVID-19, I think, is largely confined to the urban areas, and therefore I would not say that the flood per se would hamper any activity of the Department of Health and the district administration in tackling the COVID pandemic. But floods normally occur in the rural areas and along the river banks, and that is the areas which the district administration needs to keep a watch on.
All right. So, sir, let's shift our focus now to Kodagu. When it comes to the district in particular, we see the havoc, which heavy rains have been wreaking. So the question is, why is it so, and what really have we done to better the situation on ground?
The reason why we are facing floods every year on year is that if you look at the data of rainfall and study the rainfall pattern, there have been certain changes which we have observed. One is that the average rainfall during any given period, say a month, is the same. But when you look at the number of rainy days and the intensity of rainfall on those rainy days, that has undergone a drastic change. For example, we see that what was supposed to be a rainfall spread out over a month, the entire rainfall occurs over a period of 2 or 3 days, which results in heavy downpour, and as a result of that heavy downpour, the ground cannot absorb that kind of rainfall, and therefore there is runoff. This is coupled with the rapid urbanization which we have seen, and many of the urban areas have become concrete jungles, where even the roads, the footpaths are all covered with concrete, and which leaves little scope for absorption into the underground water. And therefore, there is a greater runoff, and that runoff eventually joins the streams and the river, and that leads to flooding. So we need to look at this entire, sector of flooding in its holistic and a comprehensive manner, and we have to make sure that we don't, go in for that kind of rapid concretization and rapid urbanization. That needs to be, kept under check so that we can ensure that flooding doesn't happen. And overall, this is what we have seen. This is all part of the climate change, which we have seen occurring
Very
in
true.
all parts of not only the country but all parts of the world.
Very true. So, Mr. Anil Kumar, lastly, how prepared do you think the establishment is when it comes to dealing with both the crises?
Oh, the district administration, I'm sure, is fully competent, and they have the means and the wherewithal to ensure that they tackle both COVID-19 as well as the flooding which is happening.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Anil Kumar, for joining us live on the Facebook page of Newsline, where for all of those, the state government, as I mentioned earlier, seems to be doing all that they possibly can to help those in dire need, and on the other side also to make sure that the spread of novel coronavirus is stopped. Please do your bit. Make sure that you are only stepping out of your house when it's absolutely necessary. Karnataka, we are seeing, in fact, an alarming trend. The numbers have been rising exponentially. Take care of yourself as well as your family members, and the entire country, the entire world prays for Karnataka. Thank you so very much for joining me on the Facebook page of News9. Take care of yourself. If you already like this video, do not forget to subscribe News9 YouTube. Like us on News9 Instagram, Facebook as well as Twitter. Thank you very much. Stay safe.